My number 2 coach is Sean McVay.
Oh no!
What are you talking about? What are you talking about?
Oh, all right. No, you go ahead and make your case.
I think he's taken 2 different teams to the Super Bowl and won it, which matters. He's extremely young. I think his coaching imprint is across the entire NFL with his influence, and I think that he's been as innovative as any coach that there is. I think that he's gotten more out of his talent. Like, I think he's been able to unlock a ton. I mean, just look at guys like Cooper Kupp or Puka Nacua or Alaric Jackson.
Like, this is one I struggled with because there's so many things he does that drive me insane. Even like the Super Bowl winning year, dude, they had like 7 Hall of Famers on that team. I mean, it was insane. God, I don't want to.
What are we going to do? Okay, Andy Reid's got Chris Jones, Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes. Oh, he's not that good.
Those are all homegrown guys, though, he developed. It's a little different. When Sean, like those were all mercenaries, bro. Von Miller, Bobby Wagner, Jalen Ramsey, Matthew Stafford. None of those guys are his guys. Like, I don't know. Like I said, I don't want to discredit him too much for.
There's been a lot of his homegrown guys, though.
Who?
I think Cooper Kupp's a great example of that.
And I loved Cooper Kupp coming out, so that makes sense. Same with Puka Nacua. Loved him coming out.
Right. I mean, look at guys on defense like Ernest Jones. They've gotten production out of guys like Jordan Fuller and Darius Williams. And
those guys are not needle movers, though.
Right, but they're winning Super Bowls with these guys.
With 7 other Hall of Famers. Andrew Whitworth's another one. Like, come on.
What do you this is, I can't believe this is where you're going. Yeah, the best, you know what? Tom Brady, when Bill Belichick got Tom Brady, he was just all of a sudden a much better coach. Whenever Andy Reid got Patrick Mahomes, he really elevated himself. I mean, like, what are we doing here? What?
Why are you shaking your head?
You're welcome.
"82 days, my dude. It's coming. The Hall of Fame game's going to be here even quicker than that, I'm sure. We have a meaty podcast today with Trevor Lawrence and the big contract he signed. We're going to do something that I'm sure everyone's going to agree with, right? It's the top 10 NFL head coaches. I don't know what your list is, but I'm excited. I feel like we're going to have this stacked up a little differently.
I'm eager to jump into the coaches. Let's do Trevor Lawrence first. My man just got paid 5 years, $275 million contract. First glimpse at the structure, Joe, I thought it was a little odd. They added void years. They backlogged the sucker, so it's super back heavy. And they basically gave themselves a 4 or 5 year window to try to go win it right now. My only real issue with the structure, Joe, is it just completely nerfs all flexibility moving forward. They already got the void years on, not a lot of opportunity for restructure in there to create cap space when needed. It's very opposite to what the Lions did with Jared Goff, actually.
Yeah, I think the silver lining is that your cap hits are manageable through 2028. I think that's where you take the win. So you don't have the flexibility, but you also don't have any of those big, huge cap hits where it feels crippling. But then it gets weird. It gits weird later on. And let's be honest, I don't know that he gets to 2029, 2020, or 2030 under this deal. I'm not saying he won't be the Jaguars quarterback then, but I think that the deal gets reworked at some point later down the road. Structure is interesting. The decision to do it is also interesting.
True.
Man, it just feels like as simple as the explanation here is that, well, he's a good young quarterback and it's his turn to get paid, so he did it. And I think it's complicated. I think these quarterback contracts that are left that we're talking about with Jordan Love, with Tua Tagovailoa, are also complicated. And we could see, it's crazy to me that for as much as I'm in on a guy like Jordan Love, that he could be in this ballpark with a very small sample size. And, Tua's another conversation, but you can't argue with the production. And I go back to this Tua quote when he was recently asked about negotiating the deal. He said, "The market is the market." And I kind of feel like that's what you look at with Trevor Lawrence. I'm not sure he's done enough to justify this contract, but it's his turn and the market is the market.
The market is the market. Yeah. I mean, that's a good way of looking at it. If you're a quarterback about to get paid, but for Trevor, man, I'm kind of with you. I don't know that the play on the field is warranted. The the contract. Whether the market's the market, I'm not sure that matters. I know a lot of people want to give Trevor Lawrence free passes because of the drops and, Zay and Christian Kirk and Calvin Ridley last year let him down in a lot of areas, but he also wasn't that great on the field outside of that. Like his adjusted completion percentage, which factors in drops, still ranked like 18th in the league. His catchable ball rate was down at like 22nd in the league, Joe. So like some discernible accuracy issues. And one thing that really stands out to me when I watch a tape is the dude plays way too fast, like gets through his progressions way too fast. It's like the opposite problem a lot of NFL quarterbacks have right now. He is from 1 to 5 like that, and he gets himself in trouble, starts to improvise when he doesn't really need to, when he could just have a little patience and find his open guys a little bit more often. I think he's got a lot of work to do on the field to make this contract work for him, or work for them, I should say.
There's the fumbles as well, right? I mean, just like a crazy amount of lost fumbles compared to the rest of the NFL. And I mean, it just doesn't, statistically, he doesn't measure up. He just doesn't. I think there's untapped potential here. I think I like him with Doug Peterson. I think, and they've certainly invested a lot in supporting him. I think that he's got to make Jacksonville right. And the thing is, and you said something to me, I think on our first episode, I must have said it 100 times since then, and of course, giving you zero credit. But you said the easiest thing in the NFL to do is to get worse at quarterback.
It's true.
You know what I mean? Like, so that's the thing is when you debate, well, should he have gotten this deal? Like, what are you suggesting? Are you suggesting to find another quarterback? Because you're probably not going to find one. Right. And that's where it gets difficult. So this is kind of your guy. Like that's Jacksonville saying, this is our guy. We're going to continue the path. And now Trevor Lawrence has to make Jacksonville right.
I try to play devil's advocate with myself all the time. So I look at it like their front office. Yeah. To your point, he's the guy. It's easier to get worse at quarterback. We don't really have a lot of options. We're good enough too that we're not going to be drafting high next year. So,
right.
Even if Lawrence isn't that great, then on top of that, they went out, they spent money on Gabe Davis, whether they should have or not, it's another question, but they drafted Brian Thomas in the first round. Their offensive line has a little more continuity than it's ever had. They have a pretty good run game. And so you're looking at it like, well, statistically, he's probably going to take a big leap next year. And that's going to cost us more money, right? So playing the waiting game, the wait and see approach could actually just cost them more money. I think that's the flip side of it. So I don't know. I mean, I guess the structure, you have a solid 5-year window where you can try to put your best team on the field and go out there and win it. And who knows? AFC's tough, man.
It's tough, but they have a lot of young talent. They seem to be aggressive, right? So
yeah.
Like you said, though, it's a battle in the AFC, and I think their division's getting tougher with, I think we're both pretty high on the direction of Houston and Indianapolis.
Right.
So we'll see.
We will see. All right, let's jump into these coaches, Joe. I don't know where I saw it, but, this time of year, everyone's doing lists, right? Top 25, under 25, top coaches, top this, top that. So I figured we should devote a podcast to just talking coaches. A lot of times we get so focused on GMs and players and player evaluations that we forget about all the coaching that goes on. So I'm really excited to jump into this with you because we rarely talk coaches, Joe. Even in our phone conversations, like it's very rare we talk coaches and decision making and leading men. And so I think this is a good opportunity for us.
So we both have individual lists of 10 head coaches. How many overlapping coaches do we have? That's my guess. Do you think that we're going to have 8 of 10 the same? How many different coaches are going to come up in this conversation today?
I think our top 5s will both for sure have on the top 10. Whether they're, my top 5 might not be your top 5, but I think you'll have all 5 of those guys in your top 10. So,
all right.
So I don't know. I think probably 14 coaches maybe come up, 13, 14. So strong overlap, maybe 7.
If we get to 15, that'd be kind of nuts.
That would be kind of nuts.
I think it's 13. But I think that's a sweet number.
I will tell you this, Joe. The more I dove into this when I was preparing for this segment, the more I realized I don't like a lot of head coaches right now. I think they're in a weird spot. Two guys that I think are awesome head coaches, Bill Belichick and Mike Vrabel, currently unemployed. I there was a lot of guys. There's guys in my top 5 that I have hammered critically, publicly, in media, on other podcasts, but they're in my top 5.
I have 2 of those as well.
It's crazy. So that said, I mean, I think the NFL has a lot of young up and coming coaches. The Shane Steichens of the world, D'Amico Ryans of the world, yada yada. But we'll get into it. So I'm guessing we agree on the first guy at least, right?
We do, but quick break and then we'll get to our list.
Yeah, let's do that. Nice. So I'm assuming you have Andy Reid, number 1.
Yeah, it's not debatable, right? Like, is there an intellectually honest pathway to say that he's not the best head coach in the NFL right now? He's won 3 of the last 5 Super Bowls. Come on.
And he was good with another franchise too. That's huge for me. He's done it twice, 2 different spots, multiple QBs. He's always been a winner. Even when his teams have been mediocre, he's pulling them, to the playoffs basically. So
right, like that Alex Smith team that happened, right? Like
they got the 1 seed with Alex Smith, didn't they not?
They might have.
Yeah.
They might have, but like a lot of different quarterbacks. Yeah, Andy Reid's number 1. It's not close. He's first ballot Hall of Famer, all the stuff.
Yep, and now that Belichick's unemployed, like it's pretty easy slam dunk. So
now it gets interesting.
I don't know if I want to throw second.
I'll go second. Right. I have some convictions about this. My number 2 coach is Sean McVay.
Oh no!
What are you talking about? What are you talking about?
Oh, all right. No, you go ahead and make your case. I have McVay. This is one of the guys I don't like him, but he's in my.
Oh, I'm really in on Sean McVay. I think he's taken 2 different teams to the Super Bowl and won it, which matters. He's extremely young. I think his coaching imprint is across the entire NFL with his influence, and I think that he's been as innovative as any coach that there is. I think that he's gotten more out of his talent. Like, I think he's been able to unlock a ton. I mean, just look at guys like Cooper Kupp or Puka Nacua or Alaric Jackson, the types of players that these guys have come into. And I think he's been able to withstand a lot of turnover on the defensive side of the football with that coaching staff as well, and continue to groom and replace and have a deep pipeline of coaches to go into to round out his staff. I mean, he wins every single year. He had 1 blip in the radar the 5-12 season after winning the Super Bowl where they had a ton of roster turnover and the quarterback was injured. But other than that, this guy walks in with 10 wins, man. I think he's unbelievable.
Okay. He's 5th on my list, so it's not like I hate the guy.
Oh, okay. All right.
I just like this is one I struggled with because there's so many things he does that drive me insane. Even like the Super Bowl winning year, dude, they had like 7 Hall of Famers on that team. I mean, it was insane. God, I don't want to.
What are we going to do? Okay, Andy Reid's got Chris Jones, Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes. Oh, he's not that good.
Those are all homegrown guys, though, he developed. It's a little different. When Sean, like those were all mercenaries, bro. Von Miller, Bobby Wagner, Jalen Ramsey, Matthew Stafford. None of those guys are his guys. Like, I don't know. Like I said, I don't want to discredit him too much
There's been a lot of his homegrown guys, though.
Who?
I think Cooper Kupp's a great example of that.
Good example. And I loved Cooper Kupp coming out, so that makes sense. Same with Puka Nacua. Loved him coming out.
Right. I mean, look at guys on defense like Ernest Jones. They've gotten production out of guys like Jordan Fuller and Darius Williams. And
those guys are not needle movers, though.
Right, but they're winning Super Bowls with these guys.
With 7 other Hall of Famers. Andrew Whitworth's another one. Like, come on.
I can't believe this is where you're going. Yeah, the best. You know what? Tom Brady, when Bill Belichick got Tom Brady, he was just all of a sudden a much better coach. Whenever Andy Reid got Patrick Mahomes, he really elevated himself. I mean, like, what are we doing here?
It's not even the quarterback. It's the other. And like I said, I don't want to discredit him for the GM being good. The GM put together a Super Bowl winning team. McVay coached it. He gets credit for that for sure. That's why he's 5th on my list.
Did you think that team last year was capable of going to the playoffs? All the holes they had in that roster, the defense, all the transition.
I thought they were a fringe playoff team preseason for sure.
I didn't think much of that roster.
No. Well, I mean, I will say their O-line worked out way better than they thought it would last year. That's credit to McVay. The conversion to like a power run game, definitely credit to McVay. I will say this about McVay. I think in outside of games. I think he's really bad at adjusting in a game, but as far as like evolving what he does to stay relevant and to stay on top, he's been very good at that. I remember, gosh, there was a year where they pretty much exclusively ran 11 personnel. And towards the end of the season, that offense got stale. Next year, they started incorporating a bunch of 12 personnel. That's when you saw Tyler Higbee and Gerald Everett. They took another step forward as an offense. Then the year after that, they kind of went back to that more outside zone, 11 personnel heavy scheme. And he's done a really good job, season to season, kind of evolving what he does. Last year, they relied on that run game. These are the things I like about McVay. Inside of games, though, I think he's not a very good game manager. I think it's cost him a ton of big moments. He is so conservative. It blows my mind, especially for how capable his offensive mind is. Actually, just go watch the Lions-Rams playoff game last year. You can argue McVay lost them that game with his decision-making down in the fourth quarter.
See, now you're letting the Dan Campbell, it's bleeding into your brain a little bit right now. I can tell.
Oh, this is why I love Dan Campbell from the start in Detroit, is because I'm a default aggressive mindset. Punting inside the 50 with 4th and 3 or less is losing football to me. So, and this is why this is my biggest issue with Sean McVay. I think he's cost his team some games.
All right. So he's your number 5 coach, though. So all of this to say he's still in your top 5?
All this to say he's still in my top 5. And this is exactly why I set up the conversation the way I did, because I feel this way about my next guy as well. Or that's not true. My third guy. But my second favorite coach or second ranked coach is John Harbaugh, Baltimore Ravens. Super Bowl winning coach. I think the thing for me that stands out, Joe, is the roster turnover, front office turnover, coaching staff turnover, year after year that John Harbaugh's had to deal with has been insane. And he has still managed to get the most out of that roster year over year, minus a couple blips in the radar here and there. The transition from a Flacco quarterback to a Lamar Jackson was super impressive coaching job to me. Completely polar opposite play styles. And it was almost seamless. So I just really admire what John Harbaugh's done. And I think when it comes to let's be honest, the ultimate job of a coach isn't designing plays or building a roster or calling plays even in a game. It's leading men, right? And I think that's my favorite trait for a head coach, is the ability to lead men into battle. And that's what John Harbaugh does at, probably the highest level in the league right now.
I have him at number 3. So we're really close on Harbaugh. A lot of the talking points that I would have gotten into, you got to with him as the constant and the success that they continue to have year over year. I think he's an unbelievable leader. And I think that the consistency speaks for itself. So I'm with you, John Harbaugh, number 3 for me.
Sweet.
So why don't you give your number 3 now? Because my top 3 are out there: Reid, McVay, Harbaugh, 1 through 3.
All right, so I'm Reid, Harbaugh, and then Kyle Shanahan. And I don't like Kyle Shanahan. There's things about him I don't like, similar to Sean McVay. He's cost his team some games in big moments.
I agree.
Consistency since he's been there in San Francisco has been elite. His I think he's got the second highest winning percentage in the National Football League, right? Or something close to that. That's not true. That's like the last 3 years. I think that's true. His team is always up there, though. He's gone to 2 different Super Bowls as a head coach, 3 total. You talked about the impact McVay's had on the rest of the league as far as coaching tree goes. You can say the same thing about Kyle Shanahan. He's got coaches all over the freaking place. The offense year over year, the continuity with subpar quarterback play is also something that stands out to me. Yeah. Like from a scheme standpoint, there might not be a guy that's better in the league than Kyle Shanahan, and you're seeing that scheme with other coaches work as well. So,
yeah, I mean, even when guys like Nick Mullins and CJ Beathard had to get starts, their offense wasn't a lost cause. I have Kyle Shanahan at number 5 for me. So I think highly of him. I do think that while he's a big part of the reason why San Francisco's been an elite team in the NFC, I think he's also the reason why they haven't won a Super Bowl yet, right? But they've certainly been knocking on the door very, very close, obviously. And the Chiefs have spoiled that a couple of times. So I'm with you on Kyle Shanahan, number 5 for me.
Last point on him, by the way, he's lost 3 different Super Bowls, 1 as a coordinator, 2 as a head coach. Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes. It's like we could give Kyle Shanahan possibly a little grace there. That's all I'm saying.
Right. Let me give you my number 4. I think this is going to be a very controversial one. But I'm glad that you said what you said about John Harbaugh. because this applies a lot to this guy, and that's Mike Tomlin.
Okay.
Mike Tomlin bothers me so much. But you cannot deny the consistency, never having a losing season. And yes, I would agree that he does frustrate me. But what this team overcomes and like how he's able to find formulas, and I know that a lot of times that's running the ball and playing defense and winning in the margins, and I think that's necessary because he doesn't have Ben Roethlisberger in his prime anymore, right? He's trying to win with Kenny Pickett and whatever they're trying to put together. Like late stage Ben Roethlisberger was tough to watch. So I just have a lot of respect for him. And you talk about leaders being a leader of men. I mean, Mike Tomlin's that guy through and through, and he wins. I know it's been a long time since he's won in the playoffs. I know it's been a long time since he won that Super Bowl back in 2008, but the resume is off the charts, and they still find ways to win despite the quarterback play not really being at a high level for a long time.
Joe, I'm glad you brought up Tomlin. I'm going to tell you where I have him, but before we do, we got to take a quick break. Mike Tomlin, Joe, I have him 6th. So I had him in the top 5. I ended up bumping him for McVay, actually. The more I went back and forth on that, I thought it would be ridiculous to put McVay behind Tomlin. So I have Tomlin at 6th. Everything you said, I agree with. Same reasons I love Harbaugh. I love Tomlin, just to a slightly lesser extent, obviously. So, yeah, big on that. So good call there.
So who's your number 4? We have your 1, 2, 3, 5, and 6.
So my 4 is going to piss people off.
Ooh, that's what I like to hear.
It's gonna ruffle some feathers. He might be the most hated coach in all of football. Any guesses? I want you to guess just because.
Oh, okay. That's a big one. The most hated coach in all of football.
People despise this man.
Mike McCarthy.
No, he might be my 32nd ranked coach, but
I was on target with him being hated. That was a good way. I mean, that was my qualifier. I'll say Sean Payton.
Nope. I'll just throw it out. Jim Harbaugh.
Come on, you really did this?
I did this. There is not a single coach in the NFL that has a higher winning percentage than Jim Harbaugh that's actively coaching. Not one, Joe. Every single place this man has gone. Talk about culture and leading men. He has turned them into winners. San Diego, Stanford, San Francisco 49ers, Michigan, and now the Chargers. They're next. This dude is an absolute culture phenom. This is what he does. He builds culture. I think he's an awesome coach. I know he has so many unlikable qualities. I can't stand the guy, 60% of the time he talks, but you can't deny the results. It's been 5 different locations he's done this now. I mean, come on. What's the argument?
Right. No, here's the deal. I actually like Jim Harbaugh. So I that's interesting that he's in the hated group. I'm a big on the one-liners, man. I say that I find myself saying things to myself like it's time to attack this day with an enthusiasm unbeknown to mankind, and then let's start to pack your lunch and whatever the things he says, right? Like who's got it better than us? I love all that. Honestly, I do. Guy hadn't coached the NFL since 2014, man. You know what I mean? Like we can all agree that the NFL's changed a lot over the last 10 years. And I think you have a heck of a case to be made that he's cool. He's won at the college level at the highest level during that time to fill in the gaps. Like I totally get that. But I would like to see a little like a current proof of concept before I put him in my top 10 coaches. So I thought about him and then I talked myself right out of it because he's got that great winning percentage, but he's 0-0 in the last 10 years. So let me see what this looks like. And then I'll reconsider Jim Harbaugh in this conversation.
That's a fair argument against him. I just think I've already established the fact that I think the most important trait for a head coach in the NFL is leadership, right? It's more an administrative job than people want to think it is. It's not X's and O's all day long. It's administrative, HR. You're doing HR work, man. Like you're dealing with people's problems. You're getting involved in their families, their lives. And I think Harbaugh, no matter where he's gone, is Jim Harbaugh, that has done that at a high level. So I think it will translate to this stint as well. I understand though why you wouldn't have him. Is he in your top 10 at all, or just?
No, I didn't put him. Yeah, he was disqualified. He hasn't coached in 10 years.
Okay, all right. Cool.
That's my thought on that. Okay. So my top 5 has been revealed. I have Reid, McVay, John Harbaugh, Mike Tomlin. My 5th is Kyle Shanahan.
Yep.
So we've both given our top 5. Now it's time to get to the back half of that.
Yeah, I've technically given my top 6.
Right, because you have Tomlin at 6, and I've had him at 4. My number 6, Sean Payton, Denver Broncos. I think he's got a lot to prove in Denver. We know that he can be aggressive with personnel choices. That happened a ton with the Saints, and I think that he's kind of getting things set up the way he wants to in Denver. But, I mean, we're talking about a Super Bowl winning coach. We're talking about a guy that, I mean, he had that 7-9 stretch there for a couple of years with those Saints. But for the most part, this guy's been the type of coach that leads his team to contention in the division and playoff runs every single season. I think even last year to see how that Denver team evolved in season. I mean, they were 1-5. The Dolphins hung 70 on them. Russ Wilson doesn't run the offense, and he still got that team to 8-9. You know what I mean? Like, I think that he's the type of coach that you're always going to have a chance with, and now it's a matter of, for him in Denver, just getting the right stuff around him. But I think what he did in New Orleans for so long, and I know that he's having a Hall of Fame quarterback like Drew Brees certainly helps. But I have such a respect for his career to this point. I think he rubs people the wrong way as much as any coach in the NFL does too.
Very true.
But I can't deny the success.
All right, Sean Payton, Joe, I agree with everything you said. He's my 7th, so we are pretty much in lock there. I'll say this. He ended his tenure as the New Orleans Saints head coach with his last 5 seasons, 4 straight division titles, and then a second-place finish after Drew Brees retired with freaking Taysom Hill at quarterback mostly, with some Teddy Bridgewater mixed in there too. That's as impressive as it gets, in my opinion. In those last 4 years of winning division titles with Drew Brees wasn't the same guy as when they were winning Super Bowls or contending for Super Bowls. So very impressive. I mean, everything from an X's and O's standpoint, I love the personnel switch ups. He can hit you from a variety of ways from a schematic standpoint. And I think there's no question he can also lead men. It might be frustrating to the way he carries himself. I think that a lot of people don't jive with it, but there's no doubt that the players have played for him and he leads them at a high level. So big Sean Payton guy here. His recent Denver stint is the only reason he's not in my top 5, to be honest with you. So he has a chance to obviously redeem himself, though.
We're close, though. I had him at 6. You had him at 7.
Yep.
Okay, so we have your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7.
Yep.
I still need to share my number 7, don't I?
You do.
I should do that right now. This is one I'm curious to see where your temperature is, because I feel like anything going on with the Green Bay Packers, you try to diminish it.
Mm-hmm.
And I have Matt LaFleur as my number 7 head coach in the NFL. Started his career in Green Bay with 3 consecutive 13-win seasons. Then he went 8-9 and 9-8. And I think from a leadership perspective, being able to get through the Aaron Rodgers drama that just never went away for his first 4 seasons in Green Bay. They won a lot of football games. They won playoff games as well. They've won 3 playoff games already under Matt LaFleur. And I think this new iteration of the Packers, that young roster that grew up right before our eyes last season, that took the 3-6 start into they went 9-8. They went to the playoffs. They won a playoff game, and they took it to San Francisco, man. I mean, they were riding Aaron Jones that last little stretch there and had a chance. So I think being successful with Aaron Rodgers under those circumstances, with Jordan Love, the defense has not been good, right? And he's an offensive-minded coach. Joe Barry's been a bit of a joke. I think Jeff Hafley coming in is going to be very interesting to see how that all plays out. But 56-27 in 5 years to start his tenure with the Green Bay Packers under some really tough circumstances. I mean, even Devontae Adams and what happened there, losing some of your cornerstone players. Bakhtiari was never available. I'm a fan of what he's been able to get done.
Joe, Matt LaFleur is number 8 for me.
Oh, wow. Very nice.
We're right there. We're in lock. I don't diminish everything the Packers do if I believe in it. And Matt LaFleur is one of the things I believe in for sure. You nailed it with the Rodgers stuff. Navigating that situation, he was just rock steady, man. that wasn't easy. In fact, I would say that Aaron Rodgers probably held him back from an offensive standpoint. You look at the play calling and some of the designs and the plays they're running now. They weren't in the playbook when Rodgers was quarterback there. I don't think that's an accident. I think Aaron Rodgers does things the way he wants and doesn't care what authority.
You think, Brett? You think?
Yeah, right? And so I think LaFleur, when he was ridded of Aaron Rodgers, he got to open that playbook back up and get in his bag a little bit. There were moments, even when Jordan Love was playing poorly last year, where LaFleur was just totally in his bag, scheming it up, getting those easy layups, and that's how you sustain, uneven quarterback play right there. So very much a big fan of Matt LaFleur. This season's going to be huge for him, right? Because he's got a little bit more mature roster now, and Jordan Love, obviously the way he finished, they have a chance to go win the NFC North here. So love him. I think a great call there.
So now we have your 1 through 8.
Now we
have my 1 through 7.
Yep.
Ready for my number 8?
I am, and I'm curious because this is where it probably gets weird.
Yeah, I think this is where you kind of fill in a little flavor stuff here towards the end. The Kansas City Chiefs, you heard of them? Good team, right?
Yes.
The Kansas City Chiefs have won a playoff game in each of the last 4 seasons. Only one other team in the NFL can say that they did that.
Oh, no.
Who is that?
You're doing Sean McDermott.
Put him at number 8. Yeah. You want to talk about leadership? You want to talk about leadership? Come on now. Sean McDermott has been unbelievable in terms of leadership and the adversity that the team has gone through, that the city has gone through, that he's been the tip of the spear through all of it. But go back to his first season. The Bills were tanking, right? They're tanking. Well, they tanked their way into the playoffs with Tyrod Taylor at quarterback and broke the 17-year playoff drought. And then obviously being able to draft a quarterback like Josh Allen and have a good plan to develop him. And even in that 2019 season where they went 6-10, they were able to kind of stay committed to their path. And they made the playoffs 5 years in a row. They've won the AFC East 4 years in a row. I mean, this team has been as rock solid of I guess at least a regular season team. And they've had to go on some stretches later in the season, each of the last few years, to win that division and really lock up their playoff seeding. They've been able to do it. Now there's been some lulls. They've had some disappointing performances in the playoffs against Kansas City and against Cincinnati, but I don't think the Bills have done everything but win the Super Bowl under Sean McDermott.
Fair points. He's my 10. So I struggled with this one personally. This is another one of those guys where I'm like, there's a lot of things I don't like about Sean McDermott, and I didn't want to put him in the top 10, but as I broke it down, the other options there were younger guys that have only been coaching for.
Well, you like leadership and aggression. That's Sean McDermott.
I do.
And he wins.
I'll repeat something you said
Mm-hmm.
of why I don't like Sean McDermott. Josh Allen's easily the second best quarterback in the league, arguably the first even. I mean, I think he's from a clutch standpoint, he's every bit as clutch as Patrick Mahomes. The defense has let him down the last
100%. Yeah, in those playoff elimination games.
And that is specifically Sean McDermott's purview.
Yeah.
So that's my only big issue with him, plus all the cheesy puns and 9/11 talk, all that. But
you went there. Brett Whitefield went there. Hey, you had him at 10 though. I mean, we're 2 spots off. This isn't controversial. We're close.
You're correct. We are close. I ultimately just I respect him for what he's done. The 4 years of playoff wins, it's great. He should, Patrick Mahomes is a thorn in his side. If they could beat him 1 year, that would be awesome. So
he does. They're amazing against Patrick Mahomes in the regular season. Amazing. They're 3-1. He's got like a sub 80 passer rating in three games against the Bills. Get to the playoffs, don't have a prayer, right? Like that's what it comes down to. But I mean, you wanted to give all the grace in the world to Kyle Shanahan. Well, his Super Bowl loss has been to Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes. No grace for Sean McDermott? None?
There's grace. That's why he's 10th, Joe. I told you I didn't want him in my top.
Yeah, but I can tell you this is hard for you. You didn't want to do this.
Yeah, I just wanted to present the other side of McDermott. Right. It's not all rainbows and butterflies. I'll admit, too, I've called for his job at times.
I did, too. Last season, dude, after that Philly loss, I was get out of here. 19 seconds left. You had 2 timeouts. You didn't give Josh Allen a chance with the ball after the Denver situation where you had too many guys in the field for the field goal. Like, yeah, I was done, bro. But then in those moments, you kind of get stupid. and I let it breathe. The guy went on a run. They won the division for the 4th year in a row. They won a playoff game, and then
I hear you. My
and
argument,
they've been right there against Kansas City too, man. They've been right there in the playoffs. 13 seconds. That's 100% on Sean McDermott, but they were right there.
why does Josh Allen take the blame for that? Like
He doesn't.
people talk about Josh Allen. He's not clutch.
Oh, are you kidding me?
I hear it all the time, dude.
Yeah, I can't even listen to that. Like, if you start talking, like, you're immediately muted in my world of football analysis. Like, I don't care about what you have to say.
So you've got your top 8 out there now?
Yeah, so we need your
9.
We need your number 9.
MCDC, baby. Motor City Dan Campbell. That's my 9. Probably the slimmest resume of anyone on this list, right? Only been coaching 3 years. One of them was a losing season. But when you talk about leadership, getting guys to play for him, I think he's done the most with the least. That roster was a dumpster fire when he got there. The plan to develop and trust his guys, the staff he's built out, the continuity across the board. A lot of it's Dan Campbell. Huge fan. So he's my number 9.
All right, I have Dan Campbell as my number 9 as well. So we're right there with Dan Campbell. Had to put him below Sean McDermott because head to head.
Yeah.
Come on, man. I had to get my little jabs in there. We'll see. That'll be a game this year. Bills Lions later in the season. So I'll be going
In Detroit, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's Detroit has I think they have short rest for that game as well.
Do they? Okay.
Yeah.
I know
they have extended rest, excuse me. I think they come out of Thanksgiving with extended rest against Buffalo. Yeah. Nice cozy Ford Field, the Bills' second home. All right, I have him at number 9. And so we have your full list. We're only going to have one coach different.
Yeah, that's remarkable, dude.
Yeah, I didn't think that was going to be the case. But I like you said, I think there's just a lot of young coaches that, I mean, with the way that the league turns over coaches, you're not getting that much tenure out there. And so my number 10, and I admittedly don't love this, but I have a lot of respect for what they've been able to do. I have Kevin Stefanski from the Browns as my number 10. It's weird because they've only finished better than 3rd in the AFC North one time this past season. But I think without being able to get stable quarterback play really at any point, for them to be as competitive as they've been, for them to be able to, like, last season, they don't have Nick Chubb. I mean, Joe Flacco. How many quarterbacks did they play to come out of that with 11 wins? I mean, 11 wins was only good for 2nd in that division, but they got romped in the playoffs. But they go back to his first season, they won a playoff game, and then they took it to Kansas City in the divisional round.
They did.
I feel like if he gets stable quarterback play, man, watch out, because I like structurally, I really do like their offensive philosophy, their identity. I like his play calling. I think once that quarterback play gets where it needs to be, I think the Browns are going to be a force, and I think that roster is really, really good. We'll get to the AFC North at some point, but I'm big on what the Browns have outside of the quarterback position.
Yeah, elevating that team to where they got last year, despite the 5 different starting quarterbacks or whatever it was,
and no Nick Chubb, right? The tackles were hurt.
Yep, offensive line took a major step back. Defense was awesome, obviously, but no Nick Chubb, no consistent quarterback play, and they were a 11-win team that was furious. I mean, they were very good. So, yep, I like Stefanski. He would have been an honorable mention for me. I'm excited to see where these young coaches end up next year when we do this. Like Shane Steichen, D'Amico Ryans.
I
think they have a chance to jump on the list here.